Welcome to Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast that brings Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
This episode of Sports Spectrum's podcast with Turner and Donna Ward is brought to you by Compassion International, the most trusted child development ministry in the world. Compassion does it right, and they offer an opportunity for you and I to help release a child from poverty. It's that time of year when we start thinking about how can we make a difference? How can we help? What's a great idea for a gift to get somebody for Christmas? Well, how about taking $38 a month and helping someone who's in poverty, a child in poverty? And it's tax deductible. It's an opportunity to release that child from poverty through Compassion International. That $38 provides food, education, medical care, vocational training, and the most important thing, it's all done in discipling these children in the name of Jesus Christ. Go to the website, compassion.com/sportsspectrum. That's the place to check out a list of children waiting to be released from poverty. Pray about it. Check out the website. Pick a child. You're in. Sponsor a child today through Compassion. Compassion.com/sportsspectrum, and pray about releasing a child from poverty today. Today on Sports Spectrum, we feature an interview with Turner and Donna Ward. Turner Ward, that name might sound familiar, longtime Major League Baseball player, was drafted by the New York Yankees way back in the 1986 MLB Amateur Draft and made his Major League Baseball debut 4 years later, September 10th, 1990, and played 12 seasons in the major leagues with Cleveland, then Toronto, where he won 2 World Series championships, back-to-back World Series championships with the Blue Jays, then Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Arizona, and then finished out his career in 2001 with the Philadelphia Phillies. But the name Turner Ward might sound more familiar because he then went into coaching. He was a hitting coach with the Arizona Diamondbacks from 2013 to 2015, with the Los Angeles Dodgers from 2016 to 2018. He was a part of that National League Championship team with the Dodgers both in 2017 and 2018, and then with the Cincinnati Reds last year in 2019. So there's a big baseball background here with Turner Ward. His wife, Donna, is actually the hero of the story, though. And Turner and Donna Ward recently were featured in a video on IamSecond.com, which does great work. They've been doing it for a long time. And I saw this video, and it's the emotional story of Donna Ward overcoming and battling cancer. And Turner and Donna are both in it. They're very emotional. It's a powerful story. And when I saw it, I said, you know what? I would love to get them on the podcast and kind of expand on what was in that 9 minutes on the I Am Second video. And they were gracious enough to come on. And here's a little peek behind the curtain. We actually taped this interview twice. The first time, I hit record, I hit stop, I went to look for the audio, and it was gone. It's the first time in 400 plus interviews that we've done on Sports Spectrum that I couldn't find the audio. And I felt terrible. And I reached out to Turner and Donna, and they were both so gracious, so willing to come back on and do a second interview. And this is what you're going to hear now on Sports Spectrum with Turner and Donna Ward. Their story, it's a powerful one. Here's Turner and Donna Ward and their story here on Sports Spectrum's podcast. Turner and Donna Ward, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. It's great to have you guys. And I'll give the audience a little peek behind the curtain. We actually taped a full 1 hour, almost 1 hour interview yesterday, as people won't understand what yesterday is, but we're taping this November 1st, so it was on Halloween. And as the saying goes, 99.9% of the time it works, but there's always that 1% chance. And of course, that happened. In our interview that we taped yesterday was nowhere to be found. And that's never happened in all the interviews we've done. So we get to do a second interview together, which I'm excited. Now I know more about you guys, which I'm even more excited about. But our audience is going to get a chance to hear your story. And it's a very powerful one. And I want to start with the I Am Second video, because that's how we got connected. That's where I first heard both of your stories. So I'll start with you, Turner, and telling us kind of how the I Am Second video came about and the kind of the the reasoning behind deciding to go as public as you would doing a video like that, because a lot of people watch their content.
Well, really, it kind of found us. It was really kind of our son was on a flight with one of the, and happened to be sitting by one of the I Am Second people, Tyler, and he just said, "Hey, man, y'all need to talk to my dad about his story and sharing his story." And then when they kind of contacted me, I said, "You know what? Y'all need to y'all need to hear Paul Goldsmith's story." And then it was all of a sudden like Tucker was like, "Guys, my mom has got the story. Y'all really need to hear my mom's story." So that's kind of how it all kind of came about. It just kind of found us, and we was just kind of willing to share.
It's pretty crazy when you think about how a meeting on an airplane leads to one thing that leads to another, and all of a sudden you're sharing your story with I Am Second. The video is on iamsecond.com. It's really great. You got to go check it out, and we'll link to it in our show notes and on our website, sportspectrum.com. Turner, I want to go back, though. I want to kind of learn a little bit more about your and Donna's journey. So take us back to baseball when you're young, kind of growing and developing and realizing that baseball is something that you're pretty good at.
I mean, it started way back as a young child. I mean, you're kind of having a dream, probably like a lot of kids, kind of having a dream to play in professional baseball. And so for me, it started really as a young boy, but I actually went out for my freshman baseball team and didn't make it. And, that was kind of a pretty big pivotal moment in my life. But, I reached my dream in 1990 with the Cleveland Indians coming up that year. And, I had to put in a lot of hard work and a lot of time to kind of make that dream come true.
Donna, I know the story of you and Turner meeting actually goes way back to high school times. Tell us about the first time you guys met.
So we knew each other like middle school, maybe just through seeing each other, but we just had become friends and never thought about dating, never crossed either one of our minds, I don't think. But just one night we had both went to the same party, and I needed a ride home, and one of Turner's best friends was going to take me home. And the next thing I know, Turner jumped in the car and is sitting in the back seat next to me. And I remember after getting home, going in and calling one of my best friends, and I said, "I think I like Turner Ward more than a friend." And so it kind of started from there.
More than a friend, Turner, that's got to make you feel pretty good.
Well, I mean, I think the feelings were mutual at that time. I mean, we've been married 31 years now, and heck, we dated for 7 years, I think it was. And so I'd really never had a girlfriend at that point. Didn't really no one really kind of struck my eye or anything. But when I took her home that night, when my buddy and I was taking them home, I literally in the backseat of that car thought, "This is who I'm going to marry." And thank goodness I did.
Yeah, we'd be lost without our wives, as I like to tell a lot of people, especially with my situation with my wife. So during this time that you guys are meeting, I know, Turner, you mentioned freshman baseball not making the team and kind of that being a pivotal moment for you. I think that's where your faith testimony comes in. Can you share your journey to faith? I know it started at a younger age, but kind of when Christ became real to you.
Really, it was that my sophomore year, there was a revival going on right here close to home. And, church really wasn't a big part of our life, our family. And, but for some reason I went. I would go to, I'd go to church with my friends and go to youth group but there was having a revival at church, and the preacher was talking a lot about hell and a lot about heaven. And he just painted a real good picture of where I did not want to go. And, when that preacher, he gave an invitation that night, if you want to come and surrender your life to Christ, you can come up and, pray with him. But I didn't want to get up. Everything in me wanted to get up, but I just didn't want to get up in front of those people, I think. And so that next night, the revival was still going on, and I asked my dad to go with me. I'd never been to church with my dad. We'd never been to church together. And so I asked him, and when that preacher, that night, he asked that question again, do you want to do you want Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? I just immediately got up. There wasn't nothing going to hold me back. And when I was up there with that pastor, I mean, I was just crying. I was in tears because I was so happy about the decision that I'd made. But I wanted my daddy up there with me. I wanted my father up there with me. And it was, now as I look back, it's such a picture to me now. Is like, that's how our Father in heaven is, man. He, you know what? He just wants us up there with him.
I love that story. Donna, your journey is a little different than Turner's. Tell us about your journey to faith.
Yeah, so I did not grow up in a Christian home, and actually it was quite the opposite of a Christian home. But for some reason, my mom in the summers would take me to Vacation Bible School. Whatever church was having it, I was at that church, at the Bible school for the summer. And I remember I was probably 8 years old. And one day when the teacher said, you know, who loves Jesus or who wants to ask Jesus in their heart, I remember raising my hand and so excited that I wanted Jesus in my heart. I had just wanted someone to love me, and he just seemed like he was a safe person. So I've always known Jesus, always believed in him, and really, my mom would take me to church off and on, but once I became 16 and could drive, then I would drive myself to be in church. So I've been in church since I was 16.
Has that, early in those days when you guys were first dating and you get married in 1988, so you're probably in your early 20s, I'm guessing, or, you know, in that younger stage of life, how important was it to have each other to lean on in that faith dynamic? I know for my wife and I, you know, I got saved first. 3 years later, she became a Christian. And there was a time there where she was not a Christian and I was trying to follow God, but also trying to be a good husband in our marriage. For you guys, you both seem to find faith similar times, similar moments. But how important was that to encourage each other early in your marriage?
Well, I think it's kind of been the foundation, of course, of our marriage. That doesn't mean that I haven't strayed from it or didn't struggle in it or anything like that, because there was a point even in my own life where, you know, I was trying to attain a certain goal and be a Major League Baseball player, and we're not even realizing it, that baseball became really a God in my life. And thank goodness for Donna and her faith, because she's really kind of helped that draw that back in. And so I believe from, you know, and for both of us, there's been times in our life that we've really had to, the other has really kind of had to help the other, you know, kind of find that strength when, you know, that's all we had.
Turner, in those early days, when you make it to the majors, and obviously that's fulfilling a dream, as you called it, it's 1990 and you're suddenly a Major League Baseball player, and you spend 11 years there, 12 seasons from 1990 to 2001, playing in the major leagues. But walk me through where faith was for you as a young baseball player. And I know there was a pivotal moment. You played on the Blue Jays and you won 2 World Series, and that's pretty awesome, and being a part of those. But where's faith for you before and maybe after that moment of winning a World Series?
Well, no doubt there was, you know, I look at my career almost in 2 separate parts. The first 6 years, the first 8 years, and then the last 8 years. And, you know, being able to be a part of 2 World Series champions, you know, attaining my dream, you know, which was a huge goal of my life, and, you know, making money that I would never thought I would make, and which wasn't a lot of money back then. A lot of money today, but, you know, back then it was. And so, but nothing was fulfilling. I had a faith foundation, and, you know, but I was still kind of, the world was in a place of probably importance, like my job and stuff. But a World Series wouldn't fill that void. Money wouldn't fill that void. There was nothing that was going to fill it. And after that World Series, we won the back-to-back World Series in 1993, right in the kitchen of our home. Me and my wife, we sat there and prayed, and I was like, if it never meant me playing baseball again, I meant I was going to surrender my life to Christ for the rest of my life. And I really meant that. And I can honestly say that that's where I've been living, in that place since then. So I think that me just understanding really what surrendering meant, rather than just kind of going through the motions of my faith.
What did you see in Turner when he was a Christian playing baseball early in his journey, but those last 6 years when he decided to surrender? What did you see take place in his life, and maybe how it affected the whole family?
Oh gosh, it definitely affected our family. It was obvious that we became first, or God became first. We were second, and baseball was third. So we finally had things in the order that they needed to be in for it to work. I don't think our marriage was going to make it through baseball much longer if he would not have made those changes.
Can you go a little deeper into that? And maybe, Turner, you can kind of color in the lines too, as far as you want to go, obviously. But your marriage, it sounds like, wasn't doing great. And I'm not asking you to kind of air out all the dirty laundry here, but I think it helps for people to understand from a pro baseball perspective. I mean, you're Christians at this time, right? So people would say, these are two Christians, husband and wife, they got kids. This shouldn't be a problem, but there is a problem there before that full surrender, right?
No, there's no doubt. I mean, I think just the selfishness of, of what life has to offer, and I think that's kind of, Donna didn't feel like she was first, and I think that's kind of where, that parallel to Christ comes into play in the marriage. It's like, I think she felt second even to my extended family. I think she felt second. Well, I know she felt second to the baseball. I mean, there was, so many examples of that that I needed to learn, and grow as a husband. So I think just being able to put it in perspective, because you spend so much time away from your family, the road trips, and are my friends more important or than my teammates? I mean, as our wife, and even as myself, we want to feel important, that they're number one in our relationship here. But to me, that can only happen when that relationship with Christ is first. So, we got that spiritual relationship, and then we have our earthly relationships. And to me, that's kind of what helps all those relationships grow.
Turner and Donna Ward are our guests here on Sports Spectrum. I know, Turner, for you, and you coached for many years and have coached for many years as a hitting coach with the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, and the Reds. You retired from baseball after the 2001 season, or at least that was your last year in Major League Baseball in 2001. And you mentioned Paul Goldschmidt earlier, and I saw a video and read a few articles on the impact that you had on Paul Goldschmidt, and that I Am Second video that you guys recorded also turned out to be the same time that Paul recorded his, and you were featured in his video. And I wonder, because it leads to a bigger question about mentoring and using your platform to encourage and help others. Can you go a little deeper into what that was like as a player, being mentored? And I know you even led some Bible studies when you were playing, but then turning around as a coach. Obviously, your job is to be a hitting coach, but your calling isn't necessarily to be a hitting coach. Can you explain that?
One thing that kind of goes back to my philosophy as a coach. I live by a couple of philosophies, and one of them is a player won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I make a strong effort. Excuse me. I make a strong effort to help them to understand that I care. I mean, look, I care about their career and how much they're going to perform and play well, but I care about the person first. And trying to build that kind of trust in that relationship is kind of a part of what I do, but not only because of what I do, but because what other coaches kind of poured into me. I mean, there's other coaches like Buck Showalter and Tim Foley and of course my college coach Steve Kittrell. I mean, these men impacted my life, and there's other coaches that really didn't. But I wanted to bring in that, those coaches kind of are a part of me, and so I want that part of me, the best part of me, to be with the players that I coach. And there's another philosophy that I use that comes from in John, where Jesus said that a disciple is not above his teacher, but when fully trained, he becomes like his teacher. And I put it into baseball terms. I put it, a player is not above his coach, but when he's fully trained, he will become like his coach. So I understand that I am going to be a part of these guys. They're my words, the things that I've taught, the things that I've showed them, the things that they've seen. And so I want the very best part of me to be a part of these young men that I'm around. And the very best part of me is what Christ has done in me. So that's what I want to be able to show and exemplify in my life as a person and as a coach.
Donna, were you able to see that in a similar way with the players' wives, where as you're a player's wife growing in the 90s, you're kind of finding the like-minded couples and the like-minded women to do life with, and then as you become a coach's wife in the similar play with the players' wives, did you kind of see that same trajectory on your end?
Yes, absolutely. Even in LA, we would do the wives' Bible studies, and they would ask us sometime to just do a panel, the coaches' wives who were Christians, and they just would want to ask us questions. So, yeah, it's definitely pretty much the same thing.
What was that like for both of you guys in terms of the uncertainty of the world of baseball, right? I mean, you start out in the minor leagues and you're all over the place. You're in different cities. And then you go, Turner, your career in playing saw you in Cleveland, Toronto, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Arizona, Philadelphia, and then as a hitting coach with Arizona and the Dodgers, and last year with the Cincinnati Reds. So you're kind of all over the place, and it's different every year. And that's just, there's a lot of people who just would not be comfortable with a life like that, because you're going to go everywhere, or you could go anywhere at any time. You could lose your job. Who knows? You could be, you can't be traded as a coach necessarily, but as a player you could. And what was that like for both of you? Turner, you can start with just that sort of uncertainty and how your faith maybe played a role in keeping you grounded, because I can't imagine it's easy. It's an easy life.
I think it'll be different for me to Donna, because, here I am, the one that's playing, and I'm living out that dream. And, it kind of goes back to high school. In high school, you're kind of traveling around a little bit, and then junior college, you're a little bit more. Then you go to, Division I school, and you're traveling more across the country, and you're getting a pro ball, and it's like, man. So that transition kind of was like slowly and just kind of the moving part of it. But like for me, I just loved playing. I mean, I've played in Dominican, I've played in Puerto Rico, and I really enjoyed doing what I did. So the other parts of it, going to another team, and I was still able just to do what I really love to do. There's a saying in the game that loving the game of baseball, but it doesn't always love you back. And I think that's kind of the part of the not loving you back a little bit was those times that you had to travel and make new friends, or being on a new team, or prove yourself over and over and over and over. To me, that was the challenge of it. But I think because, I really, really enjoyed what I did all the way up to the last day, last game, and just really enjoying what I did. And a part of that was kind of, the second part of that career was, just having real joy in my life anyway. It's like the other part was like, man, I was just struggling to make it, and then finding what real joy was like, but actually being able to use that in the way I played.
Donna, that doesn't sound like it's necessarily always joyful from the wife's perspective, though, not knowing where you're going to live the next year, not knowing if you're going to get traded or what team you're going to be on. And even right now, you're in the midst of that uncertainty on knowing where Turner might be next year, whether he's coaching or not. What is that like from your perspective?
Today is totally different than it was back in the early day. Now, total peace, just knowing that God is sovereign and He is in control, and just knowing Turner's going to be where he's supposed to be, if he's supposed to be anywhere at all. So, easy now. But in the earlier days, it was kind of hard. It was like you really can't enjoy it as a wife, because you're so worried at the games. If he has a bad game, are we going to get sent down? Are we going to get released? Are they going to trade us? So every at bat, every play, you're just praying and hoping they do good, so that you won't get sent out or have to make that transition. But I think when I kind of knew what I was signing up for, I guess, since we've been together for so long, and it's just our life, and it's just what we did. And so I think a mindset of that makes it a lot easier. You're not shocked when those moves have to happen.
Turner and Donna Ward are the guests here on Sports Spectrum. We talked about the I Am Second video in the beginning of this conversation, and I want to go there now in the idea of what the story in the I Am Second video portrayed, and it was really Donna's story. And Donna, I'd like you to share. It takes us back about 7 years ago, and I think you were in Mobile, Alabama, if I'm remembering what we talked about yesterday, and how at that moment, literally everything changes. Can you share what happened?
Yeah. So Turner's on the road with the team and traveling, and which I encouraged him to do because I just was so confident that there was no way I was going to get a breast cancer diagnosis. Had a routine mammogram. It was a little suspicious, so I had to have another one. And even going into the other one, I thought this is going to be fine. But just hearing those words, it is cancer, it was like right there at that very moment. My whole life was just turned upside down. Like my world was just shattered. Just hearing those words, just the fear of the unknown just overwhelms you, and the anxiety. And so everything changed on that day.
Donna, I know that a story like that and news like that has to be so difficult, but can you take us through sort of having that phone call, that conversation with Turner? And Turner, you don't need to wait for me to jump in. You can pick it up after she shares. Just having to make that call and having that conversation. And I think you were managing at the time, and just how hard that is, and kind of dealing with that news and processing it. Can you talk through that, Donna, first, and then Turner, you can pick it up.
Yeah. So honestly, after my doctor said it is cancer, I can't remember anything that was said after that. And I remember just walking out to go to the car and just feeling different. It seemed like everyone was so far away, and I just felt like I was just going through the motions of walking. I don't know. And I remember being on the elevator and just standing there, and all of a sudden someone walked in and said, do I need to push the button? I couldn't even push the button. My mind was so just everywhere. And so I remember walking across the parking lot knowing I had to call Turner. And once I hit the parking lot, the tears just started flowing, the emotions. I couldn't hold them back anymore. So I don't know how long I sat in the car crying, because I knew that I didn't want to call Turner upset and emotional. I wanted to be strong when I called him.
Yeah.
And so I know I called him, but honestly, I can't even remember what I told him. I don't even remember the conversation. So I guess Turner could pick it up from there.
I know that when we was in Birmingham and we was traveling all the way to Jacksonville, Florida, and I knew Donna was going to be calling me that day, but I'm just a positive person. I just knew that the outcome and the news was going to be good. And so when she called me, and she gave me the news that she has cancer, I didn't know what to say, what to do. Luckily, I had some coaches there with me, Dan Carlson and Jay Bell, and I immediately let those guys know what was going on, and then I just kind of, really like Donna, I was just in tears. I didn't know how to handle this. This was totally unexpected. I did not think that these words that I would be hearing, and I just wanted to be there with her.
Emotions always, they're normal, right? But I'm trying to envision this, right? And where I would go as a believer. Do I go right to God and say, pleading, helping, praying right away? Or do I try to process this like the guy that I am? And Turner, I'm guessing you're a lot like, we want to fix this. And we get into like, I don't know, coach mode, I guess, or fix it mode. Like, all right, what do we got to do? Let's get this thing fixed. What was that sort of for you after hearing the initial news, but then kind of the moments after, the days after, weeks after? Did you try to go into fix it mode, or were you still trying to process this from an emotional standpoint, from a faith standpoint? Kind of share that a little bit.
Well, I know just from an emotional standpoint, man, I was in tears every day. I didn't want Donna to know.
Yeah.
But I was angry. I mean, I was angry at God. I didn't want my wife to have to go through this. I mean, I wanted it. I prayed for it. I was want this to be on me. I didn't want my wife to have to be tough. I didn't want my wife to have to be strong. I wanted to be that for her. So, I was angry, but because of the fact that I didn't want her to have to go through it. I was angry at God because I didn't want her to go. Not angry at God because, oh man, I'm just mad at you, God, because you allowed this to happen. Or I know things in this life just happen, but I didn't want it to happen to my wife.
And that's okay to be angry, right? Now looking back, obviously we're going to take you through the next few years here and all that's transpired, but that's okay to be angry with God now. That if somebody was saying to you, Turner, I'm going through a similar situation and I'm really angry, is that okay? I got to imagine you'd say that is okay, right?
No, yeah, it is. I mean, I'm a father. I'm a son. I've been mad at my dad. I got over it. I'm hoping my kids. I mean, they've been angry. I hadn't let them do something. Didn't get them what they wanted. Maybe to help protect them or to help them show something. So, I really see that parallel in my own life from my earthly, kind of a earthly parallel of my dealing with my own father, my own son. And so, yeah, it's okay to be angry. It's okay, but you know what? Get over it.
Yeah, yeah. And go to God, right? Don't run from him, run toward him. Donna, for you, was that easy to run toward God, or were you running from him a little bit and trying to deal with this whole, what do I have to do now when you hear those words, cancer?
Well, you know what? By the time I'd heard the words, it's cancer, God had not answered one prayer. So I was really struggling. I mean, I had prayed that the routine mammogram would be okay, and it wasn't. Then I prayed that the next mammogram would be okay, and it wasn't. And then 2 MRIs and scans and biopsies and ultrasounds. And every time God was just saying no when I was just at the point of begging him to please let it be okay. So by the time when I heard that, I think that was just my faith really struggled because, why God, why are you not hearing me? Why are you not answering these prayers? Why have you let this come into my life? And so I was struggling in my faith.
One thing I didn't ask you guys the first time we taped this that I want to ask you now is about your kids. You have 3 children, a boy, girl, and a boy, and just what they meant to you, I guess, through this process, Turner. It's always tough to tell your kids that, but what was that like, kind of having them be a part of this journey that you guys have been on the last 5-6 years?
Well, they was all, of course, in different ages. My daughter was 12, our youngest son was 7, and our oldest one was in college. And they all handled it different ways, but we really struggled on how we was going to be able to share them and talk to them about it because we was kind of just dealing with it ourselves at first and trying to figure out how we can share with them. And that's not an easy step either. It was hard to kind of share to sit down with them and because they all handle it in different ways, right, Donna?
Yeah.
How about Donna? What is that like for you? I mean, I didn't realize your kids were so young. A couple of them were very young, so that's got to be a difficult dynamic as well because you want to be mom and take care of your children, but also you need to kind of let people take care of you too.
Right. And yeah, it was really hard. I have never missed anything my kids have been involved in. Like I am picking them up at school, taking them. I mean, any little thing they do, I'm there. And I could no longer do that with just the surgeries and the recoveries and then medication and just feeling so bad and not having energy. And I would just push myself so hard to try to do it just because I wanted to be there for them. And especially my daughter who was 12. I mean, she's hitting a really hard age and needs her mom. And then, I just kind of checked out. So it was hard for me to just not be able to do. And it was just sad to know that, I couldn't be the mom that I was. And so I think it probably did affect her. Our little one, I think, affected him in a different way. I think he is so compassionate now and so sweet and loving. Not that he wasn't, but I think he saw the suffering and the pain. And I think the cancer affected him more. It affected them all, but in different ways. But I think with him being so little and so in tune with what was happening, where my daughter's kind of like me, she just built a wall up to protect herself from it.
Yeah. Put a guardrail up and just
Yep.
not allow herself to feel. Turner,
Yep.
for you as a coach, so you're going through this and then things are happening. You get to the Diamondbacks and you're a coach there for a few years. You get to the Dodgers. You're in the World Series in 2017 and you're having a lot of success there, and certainly with Cincinnati this past year. So you're going and you're coaching and you're trying to kind of continue that normalcy that of baseball while your wife's battling and fighting. So help us understand sort of where and how you were able to kind of continue doing the baseball coaching thing while your wife was, battling and going through what she was going through.
Well, I think it goes back a few years even before that, because there was a transition time for about 4 years. I wasn't in the game, wasn't coaching. I was home, and Donna, I got a phone call one day about an opportunity to coach in the Pirates organization in the minor leagues, and Donna was really, I kind of told him no, I couldn't. I'm at home, right? I'm just kind of enjoying being home. And Donna's the one that really encouraged me to, you need to call him back and see, like, get out of here, but so she's the one that really encouraged me to get back into the game. And even up to that 2012, when she was diagnosed, and I was managing in AA, the big league club asked me to come up for those last 3 weeks of the season and be with the big league club. And we knew we was going to have surgery right there in October. And she actually kind of backed that to a place where we could go up and have that experience up there. So Donna's always been so selfless.
Yeah.
She's the one that's really encouraged me to keep doing this and to kind of pursue this. And I mean, she's supported when we was going from Arizona to LA. I mean, we prayed about that opportunity, and man, she was just all in. The family was, and so of course, even making the transition from LA to Cincinnati. I mean, she's just been my greatest supporter. And so it makes it easy. A lot of guys don't have that, man. And so it's so special when you do, to be able to do the things that you do and love to do, and have a supporting wife. So, man, she just supported, even hiding stuff from me that when I would not known she was feeling horrible, is the way she would just selfishly, painfully take stuff that I had no idea. So, I've learned stuff since, and, after the fact, how she handled things. And to me, it was just kind of more her not wanting to hold me or her kids or anybody else back. But to me, it was just her selfless act.
I love that. And I can sense the emotion because I know you can just see how much that meant to you. But I want to ask you, because Turner, you mentioned earlier about it's okay to be angry with God. And I think that leads to a question that I know that I asked you guys earlier, and I want to ask you again. When I say earlier, I mean our first time we taped this podcast, and the difference between happiness and joy, because that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand, maybe especially those who aren't believers and have any kind of faith in them when they're going through tough times. How can someone still find joy in the struggle? How can they still find joy when something like this happens? Most people would say, no way, there is no joy here. And you said you were angry at God. So clearly you had emotions that weren't all happiness. So what is the difference in your mindset from being happy to being joyful when you're going through something like this, Turner?
Well, I think just the difference of happy and sad is circumstantial. I mean, here's a circumstance, and it was some terrible news, and it is sad. I mean, it's a circumstance, and we have, I was able to, marry my oldest son and his wife a couple of years ago. I mean, that was happy. It was a circumstance, and I think from a joy standpoint, it's an internal thing. It's something that it's an attitude of who you are or what's been impacted in you. So to me, that joy was different is different because it's not about my circumstance. It's about who I am and where my relationship is in Christ.
Donna, for you, you said something in that I Am Second video that to me clearly shows there's some kind of joy, that you found joy, that you consider it all joy, as it says in James, when trials come of many kind. Your quote was the fact that it says, "The cancer has been one of the greatest gifts of my life." And when I saw that, I said, I don't hear too many people who get cancer saying that it's a great gift. In fact, it's quite the opposite for a lot of people. But that's not necessarily the case for you. What did you mean by that quote?
Well, that quote was just in the past, just with I Am Second a few months ago, but I didn't feel that way in the beginning, and I probably didn't feel that way halfway through. That's kind of a new feeling. It took me a long time to get there. It was a process, but looking back to where I was and where I am, even though I'm not complete and finished and still have surgeries ahead of me, but knowing now, cancer, even though it took away so many things, it has brought so many good things into my life. I mean, I have seen God and heard God in a way that if it had not been for cancer, I never would have heard him that way. So I've experienced him in a really powerful way. He has showed up during some really dark, difficult days. And so just seeing him different has changed me, has grown my faith. And then there are some friendships that I've developed with some women who have been through cancer that I'm closer to them than friends I've had my whole life. And it's just the bond of cancer. And I can't imagine my life now without these women in my life. So, that's another gift. So you have to find the silver lining if there can be one. And so mine is just, I'm different, I'm changed. And so, yeah, it's a gift.
I love that. Donna, how are you doing? We didn't really get to that part yet, but tell us about your health today. We're taping this early November 2019. How are you doing today? And what's the prognosis going forward?
I'm doing good. I'm cancer free. I just have MRIs and lab checkups every 6 months with my oncologist just to make sure that nothing's red flagged or coming back.
Yeah.
I do have a surgery scheduled for January and possibly one more after that. But then I'm just really holding on to hope that we'll be finished and that the reconstruction can be behind me and that I can feel complete physically and feel whole again. That's just what I'm really looking forward to.
I know in the video you said you feel whole, though, spiritually, and maybe not your body fully healed 100%, but spiritually you're healed, and that's awesome, and I love that. And I know when you put a video out like this, and even this podcast too, there's a reaction. There's people listening. There's people watching. Turner, what has been the reaction? Have you seen God doing some cool things already in the moments that you guys have shared this video, shared this story through I Am Second? And I'm sure we'll hear even more, or at least some when they hear your story on this podcast as well. But what's been the reaction so far as you guys have shared your story?
Oh, there's been so much great reaction. I mean, so many people have reached out and, especially to Donna. I mean, all the encouraging words and the comments and that kind of stuff, of course, is so encouraging because it was very difficult, I know, for her to kind of help, kind of put this out there and showing that vulnerability and everything. But man, we just had so much great comments of and encouragement through it. And what a lot of people don't know is Donna's been keeping a journal for, through this whole time. And she's been, writing a book and wanting to put it out. And she really got a manuscript this past week, and we read it for the first time. So it did take us back through a lot of the pain and everything. But, I think this is something else that has kind of helped Donna kind of in a healing way to be able to put something out this sometime next year.
Donna, have you seen, because I know we were talking about this yesterday too, and I even talked to my wife after we taped the first interview, and I told her about you, and I said, I just interviewed someone who is basically just like you. It's a person who doesn't like to share and be out in the public eye, and likes to be private and kind of introverted a little bit. But once you do a story like this and you're starting to write a book too, God's going to open up doors and opportunities are going to come where you can share it. So how has your focus now changed in the idea of knowing that your story, Donna Ward, can truly help someone else and encourage someone else?
Well, you know what? That's just something God is doing right now, because it's definitely not me, because I would still be saying no. But
I would probably just be talking to Turner by myself right now, right?
Absolutely. So it is a miracle of God, because there's no way, but He has just given me strength, and He has just made it very clear. Even going into I Am Second, sitting in that white chair, my first thought was, wow, I don't even have a story, and I'm about to share a story. So up to that point, I still really didn't think I had a story to share. But God has made it clear I have a story to share, a story of hope, and He wants me to share it. And so I have prayed, you've got to give me confidence, and you've got to take away the insecurities. And He is slowly doing that bit by bit. And so, yeah, only by the grace of God.
Well,
I'm ready to do it.
I think it's great. And I think, I tell people all the time, even those that don't think they have a story, we all have a story, especially believers. If you have put your faith and trust in God, then you have a story to tell. And God kind of commands us to tell that story. That's what going and making disciples is all about. Turner, for you, as we close here, this has been great. Thanks again for your time. Really appreciate your time that you've spent, all the extra time that you've spent in doing this interview with us. What are you learning from God right now? We'll start with you, Turner. I'll ask Donna this as well. What is God teaching you right now where He has you in this season of life?
Well, I think if you asked me 3 years ago, I probably would have told you something different. I mean, I think hopefully God's always teaching me something. I'm really trying to dig in and learn, just even reading this past week about, David, how he said, "Search me, O God." And I really, that's kind of what my prayer has been, because they say that, we have such an opportunity through the internet to search and to find out just about anything we want to know. And knowledge is out there. But I know just from experience, like the hardest thing to know is that self-knowledge and kind of having that good perception of yourself. And God knows me so good. He knows me more than I know myself. So I'm really, my prayer right now and the test I think for me right now is for, just to be able to search me out even more, and so that Christ can be revealed even more in me.
How about you, Donna? What's God teaching you right now?
Well, I think He's definitely teaching me to trust Him in a new way. Like we just talked about, just getting out of my comfort zone and getting out there and sharing my story. But I think one of the more important good things He's teaching me is throughout this journey, so many times I have just cried and just begged God, I want me back. I want her back. I want my life back. I want my body back. I want normal back. And I keep thinking I'm just kind of stuck and I can't move forward and I can't live life until I have all of that back. But right now He is teaching me that cancer and the surgeries and my body, none of that defines me. That's not who I am. I am still that same person, even though I feel like she's gone. And He's just teaching me that this is just a circumstance or a situation that came into my life and that I'm just having to live with right now. So just teaching me that life's trials don't define who we are. We're still the same person, whether we feel like it or not. And so I'm really trying to believe that and hold on to that.
He is Turner Ward, two-time World Series champion, longtime Major League Baseball player and coach, and his wife, Donna, who is the real hero in the story. And it's been a pleasure to talk to both of you, Turner and Donna, and get to know you. I feel like we're best friends now because we've done 2 of these interviews.
Yeah.
And I know you guys so well. But I really do appreciate, first of all, your willingness to come on and do a second interview and really taking your time to put yourself out there. I know this isn't easy. But your story is already helping a lot of people, and it's going to continue to help a lot of people. Thank you both for being here on the show.
Yes, thank you, Jason.
Yeah, Jason, thanks for having us.
Many thanks to Turner and Donna Ward for joining us here on Sports Spectrum's podcast. They got such a great story. They're awesome people. I feel like I became best friends with them after taping an interview twice with them on Sports Spectrum. But again, they showed such grace and dignity and patience, honestly, in sharing the story and being willing to tell it twice to us here at Sports Spectrum. So grateful for them, grateful that they came back a second time when the video, or I should say the audio, did not record, but we got them, and it's a powerful story. I hope it's something that you'll share with others because I know it can impact a lot of people, especially Donna's story and going through 11 surgeries, being declared cancer-free, but yet still has more surgeries in her future. So we'll continue to be praying for her. Certainly be praying for Turner as well and where he might end up with a job in 2020. We'll see what that looks like. And they're just great people and do appreciate them for joining us here on Sports Spectrum's podcast. We also appreciate Compassion International for their partnership and sponsoring us here at Sports Spectrum. Go to the website, compassion.com/sportsspectrum, and really pray about releasing a child from poverty. It's $38 a month. It's $3 a day, basically, tax deductible, and food, education, medical care, vocational training. That's what's being provided to a child in need by you when you sponsor them through Compassion International. Over 2 million children have been released from poverty because of the work being done at Compassion International. So you can join in and be a part of it as well. Go to compassion.com/sportsspectrum and release a child from poverty today. As always, you can reach us on our social media pages, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Sports_Spectrum is the handle. You can find us on our YouTube channel as well. Love to hear from you. DM us, reply, like, retweet, whatever it is that you want to do to reach us. We read everything. We see it all. And we'd love for you to not only reach out to us with your story ideas, but share this interview. Share the Donna and Turner Ward story because it needs to be heard by people out there. It really does. This encouragement from Donna Ward is one that needs to be shared. And share that story and let people know about their story here on Sports Spectrum. Also, check out our website, sportspectrum.com, where all of our content can be found, including a daily devotional, this podcast, all of our podcasts, including 400 other interviews that we've done here at Sports Spectrum, as well as articles all day long on the intersection of sports and faith. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time right here on Sports Spectrum. Have a great rest of your day.